Good day, folks. Welcome to the MB Wildman channel. Today's episode, we're going to take a look at how to make or build a fortified deer block. So this would be a feeding block, not really a mineral lick, but this would be for later on in the season when you want to bring in those deer and they want to have something to eat with some protein, and you want a good solid block that's there at your site. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of how I make my own. Super cheap, real easy to do, couple bucks tops as far as price goes, and every bit as good as, you know, the stuff that you buy in the stores that's those big cubes, you know. This one can be whatever size you want to make it. I'll show you the ingredients and how that's done. Listen, if you haven't yet subscribed to the MB Wildman channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Turn on that bell so that you get notified when we upload new content. We wouldn't want you to miss any videos. As always, we're looking for questions, comments, feedback, your experiences, whatever you got. Just go ahead and leave those down below, and we'll get back to you on those comments as soon as we possibly can. Okay, so here we go. A couple things before you get started that you're really going to want to do, because you don't want to kind of get in the middle of this and then have to think or change or go get something. So first of all, what are you going to put this in? What shape do you want it to be, and how big do you want that to be? So I like to use a typical Tupperware container, something, you know, it doesn't have to be Tupperware, I guess, typical plastic container. I don't use glass just because I'm pretty rough on stuff and I break stuff. But anyway, whatever size you want these to be, I like these little round ones. This would be about probably half the size of one of those Big & J blocks that you would buy, like at Tractor Supply or whatever. So I like this size. It's good. It's easy to carry. And once you put this out at a spot, I mean, it's pretty good size, you know, as far as that goes, and it's easy to work with. So I want to see what I'm going to put it in first. That's important. Metal mixing bowl. Make sure you use metal, because we're going to pop this in the oven in a minute. And just before you get this whole process started with ingredients and all that, go ahead and run inside. Preheat your oven to 350, and then pop back out here, and we'll get started. Okay? So first things first, we're going to measure out. I'm going to show you this ingredients, and I'm going to tell you why I use it. So the first thing that we're going to use is we're going to use a 1 cup measure for most of this. And we're going to mix up all of the dry ingredients first. What I want to do is I want to make sure I've got basically this container filled with the dry ingredients part. Okay? And then we're going to mix it up in the bowl in a minute. Okay, so first thing is 1 cup of sugar. Okay, so you just want 1 cup of regular household sugar in the bowl. Then I'm going to add 1 cup of quick oats. It doesn't have to be quick oats. It can be really, really slow oats. It doesn't really matter. Just whatever you have for breakfast in the morning, oats. Okay? So those are the first 2 ingredients. Next, I'm going to add a cup of just whole corn. So this is just regular feed store corn, right? Full kernels. I don't know, might be $6 a bag or whatever at local feed store. So you need a cup of that. Okay, so our mixture's getting up there a little bit. So the next 2 ingredients are the most important, or I think they're the most important. And we'll start with this one. Now what this ingredient is, I buy this at the local food store, and it's basically lay mash for chickens. So it's what I feed my laying hens here for their grain. The reason I use this is because of its ingredients list, basically. And one of the important things that if you read down through the ingredients of this lay mash, of course it's got, I mean, if you look at it, it's good stuff. I mean, it looks like grain, right? I mean, it's pieces of, you can see there's corn in there, you can see there's barley, you can see there's wheat. Looks like there's oats in there probably. And then there's other stuff, whatever it is they put in their lay mash. But what's important, that one of the reasons I like this so well, is that there is basically almost 4% calcium in that mix. And there's sodium in that mix, and there's phosphorus in that mix, vitamin A, vitamin D, 17% crude protein. So basically this mixture right here is really fortifying this block, and it's putting calcium in it, it's putting some mineral in it, it's putting lots of protein in it. So it's going to end up being really good, just based on the ingredients of that lay mash. I know the guys that use scratch the same way. The only difference between using scratch and using lay mash is that calcium, the amount of calcium that's in it, right? Because with the lay mash, of course, you know, those laying hens need calcium to make their eggs. So by adding it to their feed, right? So by adding it to this block, you're adding calcium, which deer also need. So that's I like it a little better than scratch, but feel free to use whatever kind of you want in that department. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use cup for cup with the lay mash and this product. This stuff I love. This is dehydrated molasses. Now I buy this in bags, big 25 kg bags, at the same place that I buy my my bulk molasses for my other the other mixture that I make, the liquid molasses, the buck jam stuff. So listen, if you haven't yet seen that video, that's a good one. Go ahead, check it out. I'll put a link up here in the corner right now to that video, but that's a great video on how to make your own buck jam, a couple bucks a bottle. But this stuff is great. This looks like, it puts you in mind of coffee grinds. And basically it's just molasses, whole molasses that they've dehydrated, and it becomes like a coffee grind type powder. It's got the smell. It's great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use dehydrated molasses, and I'm going to use the the lay ration from the chickens, and I'm going to use it cup for cup in this until it's full. Okay. Okay, so we pretty much have our plastic container or whatever container you choose, and we've got it filled with our ingredients, okay? So we have sugar, oats, whole corn, and then the chicken, lay mash, and then the dehydrated molasses, okay? So that's what's in here. Now we're gonna dump that whole mixture into your metal bowl. Beauty. Okay, keep that handy, you're gonna need it. Wooden spoon, and we're just gonna mix this up a little bit. Now we're not Betty Crocker here, it doesn't make any difference. We're not actually, you know, we're not professional chefs here. This isn't Walk with NB Wildman, right? So, oh, that's showing my age. Walk with Gone. Anyway, so we're gonna mix this up, and we're just gonna make sure it's kind of mixed up a little bit like that. And then we're gonna add the wet ingredients, okay? So as far as wet ingredients, we only need two things. We're going to use a cup of regular vegetable oil or canola oil, whatever you got, doesn't make any difference. Just some type of vegetable oil, whatever you got. Okay, so 1 cup, and that's going in the mix. Then we're going to use 1 full cup of corn syrup. Okay, done and done. Now you just want to stir this up and get it as mixed in as you possibly can. Okay, so we've got it all mixed in, and just as a note, it depends on how much dry ingredients you start out with, like depending on the size of the container you want to make. Sometimes 1 cup of the corn syrup and 1 cup of the vegetable oil aren't enough to really get all of this stuff mixed in and liquidy. All you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't have any real dry parts in here. So as long as it's kind of coated and not powdery dry, then that's fine. In my world, the corn syrup is a little more expensive than the vegetable oil. I buy vegetable oil bulk at places, so it doesn't matter. But so if I have to add any more ingredient, I add the vegetable oil. I don't add any more corn syrup, so I just stick with the 1 cup of that. But that's up to you. You can add them equally if you want to. Anyway, so now that you've got this all mixed up, I'm just going to run in and pop this mixture into the oven for 15 minutes. So you've already preheated it. Preheat. You've already set the oven to 350. So you're just going to run in, leave it right in the bowl, pop it in, 15 minutes. Once it's been in for about 15 minutes, you want to pull it out and stir it up good again. And then pop it back in for about another 10 minutes. Okay, so you got 25 minutes total in the oven, 15, stir, back in for 10, and then pull it out. Okay, so while that's finishing up in there, we've already taken it out and we've given it a good stir and it's back in the oven for 10 minutes. We're gonna come back out to our kind of workspace here, and all we're gonna do now is get our bowl ready for our ingredients that's in the oven. So all I do is a little bit of wax paper, a little bit of that vegetable oil. You don't need a lot. This is just so it doesn't, as it dries, it hardens, it doesn't stick to the inside of the bowl. So all you're gonna do is just smear your vegetable oil. I mean, you can use cooking spray too, right? Like we got Pam or whatever it is that you use for your normal, whatever makes your stuff not stick to your frying pan or not stick to your cookie sheets or whatever. But I just take some vegetable oil and just rub it on the inside. Okay, so that's all you need to do, and then you're kind of ready to go for the next step. So we're gonna run inside, grab that out of the oven, bring it back out here. So we're back out here with our nice yummy bowl of ingredients, and this is hot. Okay, and we want to keep it that way for right now. Careful not to touch the bowl because it is quite warm. So this is kind of a gooey, sticky mixture, and it smells delicious. Like you'd be tempted to eat it yourself, right? But anyway, probably shouldn't. Might have some washroom issues. I don't know. Anyway, so all we're going to do now is we're going to put it in our plastic container, and we're going to try to do about 1 inch at a time. This is key. Okay, don't skip this step or try to go too fast here. What you want to do is you just want to scoop it in here, and you want to try to get it so that you have about 1 inch in the bucket at a time. About like that. Okay, just about 1 inch or so in the bottom of the bucket. And then it doesn't matter what you use. I use this tin cup because it's handy and it's got a nice flat bottom. But what you want to do is you really want to compress it. You want to push it as hard as you can, smash it, mash it down into the bottom of your container. Now you can use a glass container for this if you find it's easier, or you can use plastic. But once you're done squishing it down in there, you should have basically this, right? It's all squished down. You got about 1 inch or so in the bottom of the bucket. And the harder you can smack this down, the better off you're going to be, okay? So you need to repeat that process as many times as it takes to fill this bucket. Okay, if we've done this right, then what you should have is you should basically have your container compressed as much as you possibly can. And I mean, you can stand on this thing. The more you can compress it, the better off you are, the more solid your block will be at the end of the day. But if you've done it right, and you do this while it's still warm, what you'll find is that the oil and the molasses will kind of mix, and that's going to help us get a real solid block in the end. Okay, so we're going to squish this down as hard as we can. And you notice we had our bucket just about full when we started, but because of the compression, we're down, 2 inches from the lid. That's perfect. And it's good and tight. Try to make sure there's no air bubbles along the sides. If you've got air bubbles in there, that will, those are spots that will chip and flake away in heavy rains and stuff like that. So scrunch it down really good. And this mixture is still quite warm, which is the way we need it. So once you're happy with how much you have it compressed and it's all good and tight, just take it like it is. Take this whole container and just pop it in your fridge. You're going to leave it overnight. When you come back in the morning, all you're going to have to do is take this, flip it upside down, and it will all come out in one nice solid piece, and you'll have your block. Okay guys, here we are the next morning. Set it in the fridge just for a couple hours to cool it down, and then took it out of the fridge and just set it on the counter to let it dry out. You just want it to dry up some. Flip the bucket over and remove, and there you go. Perfect, there you've got your deer block. This is a little better than 5 pounds in the container that I made, so this is great. I'll let this, usually I'll let it dry for one more day, just because it does have a little bit of the oil from the container. But we let that dry for about another day or so, and you can drill a hole down through the middle and hang it, or you can nail it to a tree, or you can just lay it out there as a feed block, and it's good to go. So anyway, I hope you can use this out on your out at your hunting spot, and I hope you found this video useful. Until next time, happy hunting from the MD Wildman channel.